What's up, everybody? It's Big Don Trader, and I've been getting questioned a lot lately about what's the safest, easiest way to get into the stock market, and I'm going to answer that question in this video by taking you to the $4 trillion market of ETFs. Let's go. Okay, so as mentioned, we are going to go over exchange traded funds, which are also known as ETFs. And what is that exactly? Well, it's a group of stocks that a fund or business or individual even will put together for you to get into. It is a collection of stocks. It's usually in the same sector or something of that nature, although there are various ones for dividends and growth and things of that nature. So I do want to get right into it. Just a quick disclaimer, I am not a professional. I'm just here for entertainment purposes only. So let's go. In 2020, some institutions were actually advising people to switch from their mutual funds to ETFs. So if that tells you any relative strength there, that we actually have big banks and institutions that are saying switch over to these ETFs. One reason is because it's uncertain times. There's a lot of things causing volatility right now. These just seem to be so weighted. If something, we have a bad day, one goes down, the others can pick it up, that sort of ball game. So, with that being said, there's over $500 billion in new money into these ETFs, and there's over, as I mentioned, $4 trillion total into the ETFs. So a lot of people are moving their money over to these because they are safer. And if you're a beginner trader, this is a way for you to get exposure without actually having to look into all these types of stocks. You can just do a minimal amount of research or even just watch this video and just find out the ones that you would be comfortable getting into or that you think would grow. Again, if you're into growth, dividends, anything really, there's an ETF for anything. So in this video, that's what I'm going to show you here. So we're going to start out here with OUSA, and this one is actually interesting because Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, actually helped build this one, which I'm a huge fan of. He's the Shark Tank guy. Most of the money that he makes, he actually puts back into the stock here. It is bouncing off of the 50 SMA, which is this blue line here. And I didn't really make a whole lot of adjustments here as far as alerts. You can see here that this would be the back in March line. That's just breaking above that. That is a great opportunity. Everything else that has hit this mark has seemed to go up, and so I would go ahead and say that this is a good buy now, as it should continue to go up. This again is made by Kevin O'Leary and has a lot of the biggest names in the S&P 500. He claims that it has 30% less downside than a S&P index fund. So this one, again, strong buy here. Next we will get into, that is the FANG ETF. If you're not familiar with that, that is Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. This one, as you can see, it blew past the March lows this summer and has made tremendous leaps and bounds, and it looks like it's actually starting to go parabolic here. As you can see, there is a channel here that I've made that it is following very well. It's respected this 50-day SMA and it's starting to exceed that nicely. A lot of people would actually wait for a pullback on this one. It really just depends on how bullish you are on these names. The tech sector has been very hot. Also, I want to mention that this is a 3 times leverage ETF. So whatever the stocks would do normally, this is going to multiply that times 3. That is to the upside, and unfortunately that is to the downside. So red days get pretty red, green days get really green. We're going to move over to some small caps. If you guys are interested in some of these smaller names and don't want to pick through the tens of thousands of them, you can actually just get into the Schwab ETF, which is for small caps. It's dusted past all of the SMA lines here, starting to create a channel. Following that channel nicely, bounced off of 87.3 on up to 95. Next stop 100 and beyond. Next one we're going to look into by HR. Back from its March lows nicely, came back to 277. Really following this 50-day SMA really nicely. So as you can see, I didn't even need to make a channel here, just because it's respecting this 50-day so well. So look out for that. Obviously at an all-time high. Maybe look for a possible pullback here at 330. It's past 340 right now, so this one may really start jumping up and doing numbers here. So you may not even see a pullback here, but it has been so strong since the pandemic started. This one is a great one, especially if you've been following any of the medical sector. It's far more than just vaccine news. There has been some groundbreaking discoveries lately, and I would definitely look into those individually. And if you're not interested in doing that individually, here's a great ETF for you just to get into. Let's go over to a little bit more speculative name here, and this is BETS. This is the gambling ETF actually. So for all you gamblers here and people that are into DraftKings and pin gaming and things of that nature, here is your ETF for betting, sports betting especially. You can see I've made a trend line here. It's respecting this very nicely on the up and up. It seems to have only gone down below the trend line that I made for just a little while, and now it is back above and it is starting to leap up. Are you starting to see a trend here lately? Just this year, things are really starting to go so far. So keep that in mind here through the rest of our ETF travels. Possible pullback here maybe to 26, but again, this thing could just take off. You can see here that whenever it dropped down here to this low back in October, and it actually, you can see when the news started coming about that the US was going to start legalizing some of these sites and sports betting as a whole. So it has been making nice moves, doing numbers ever since the news, and it continues to have great news, more so than none as of late. So keep an eye on BETS. Now we're going to get into ARK, ARKK, which is owned by Cathie Woods. Been making some groundbreaking discoveries with her and her team. As you can see from the March lows here, no need to even make an alert. I don't think we'll ever see this number again down here at 60, but it has been steady since the pandemic started, just rocketing almost up. Now it's literally going parabolic, so it'll probably see 150 before we see any sort of a pullback. I'm hoping to get a pullback at around the 125, 130 mark. We probably won't see the 100 range again, but I did go on ahead and make a note here just in case we do get some sort of a crazy pullback. But 125, 130 seems to be my range. If it's going to pull back at all, it could only be to 135. I'm very bullish on this stock. I am already invested in this one and continue to apply pressure to this position by adding more and more. And another thing that I wanted to go over just briefly was the fund expense ratio. It's not that big of a deal, but you will see a number expense ratio next to these ETFs, and that is basically for every 10K that you invest into some of these ETFs, it's going to charge you an expense ratio. So if the expense ratio, for example, on ARK is 0.75, for every $10,000 that you invest into this ETF, it's going to charge you $75 for an expense ratio, basically just to manage that. It's a very small amount for the amount of info and knowledge and usually gains that they give you. I'm bullish on the ETF and I believe in what they're doing. Then what is a small management fee to all the money that I'm potentially going to make? The next one I want to get into is a very hot sector right now, and that is the clean energy sector. There are several ETFs that have been made in the past year or two for this thing, and it is running wild. The first one I want to get into is ICLN. That's the iShares Trust by Clean. And as you can see, It's gone crazy since the March pandemic, and if we do see any sort of a pullback, I have a level here for around 2150. We're probably not going to see that. More likely maybe to 28, but this thing has been taken off. When you see these gaps here, hold your horses. That means that we're making leaps and bounds and things are starting to just go parabolic. And if you see some sort of a pullback, it could be something pretty substantial. But normally whenever you see these, the momentum is just crazy, hence why you see the gap. So watch out for these gap ups. High clean is going crazy. This one is up 137% year to date. We have smog. This is up 113 on the year. It broke out of this wedge that it was doing, and it's really starting to do numbers now. So watch out for smog. PDD is a super popular one for 2020. Going into 2021, and you can see why. It came up. It actually started consolidating and making a nice average here before it really just started doing numbers here. Speculating here if it's going to go sideways as it did on its last move before going up, might make a small drawback. I'm not sure if we'll ever see 140 again. If we do, I would strongly recommend loading up on shares on this, as this one is one of the most played ETFs of last year and going into this year. So PDD, another clean energy one up, and that one I believe is up 143% year to date as this video is being recorded. We're going to go the lithium and battery ETF, LIT, and as you can see, it came back from its pandemic levels at 34, and really it started taking off here towards the October range, and has created a range here. Of course, like every other clean energy ETF, it has broken the range. Check the level here, it's at about 73. We may only see a small pullback of 70, if even. I have a level here of 65 and 50, which I would like to get more shares of this if it ever drops down to that level. If not, well, it's nice knowing you guys. And we'll be in the heavens, somewhere around 100 and something. It's up 118% year to date. I want to go over another very popular ETF, and that is TAN, Invesco Solar. It has also went crazy, as a lot of these charts that I'm showing you in this video made a big leap, small pullback, and it's really starting to it's went past the trend line that I made here. That is very good news. Just over 100 is where I'm hoping that this parabolic move, if it is coming down, we're hoping to around this 100 level, 102 level, to pick up many more shares before this thing just takes off again. If it even does, it might just keep going. It may not even pull back there. So there's TAN up 234% year to date, as you can see here. Something a little bit more speculative here, and that is the YOLO MJ Cannabis ETF. Now this sector has been getting a lot of news lately as we come into rotation of a new president. He has basically said that he is for this sector, and we should be seeing this sector make many more moves. As you can see, it kind of came back from the pandemic lows. It consolidated and basically just went sideways action most of the summer, basically awaiting political news which would swing this thing one way or another. As you can see, the market really started making its mind up, and the news started coming in somewhere in late October, as politics and things started ramping up around that time, and we started seeing a trend here. It has gone up, it has broke this trend line, it has came back a little bit. Again, this is kind of a touchy sector. It is very news bound. A lot of people are expecting good news on this to come about, even possible legalization talk. So keep an eye on the YOLO ETF. Cannabis sector is actually up 53% year to date. This one is actually up even more. We went over some very good ETFs. This is a great way to get you started. Leave a comment below, and I will definitely be able to answer any questions that you guys have about these ETFs, expense ratios, why is there so much money going into these ETFs, But hopefully now by the end of this video you can see and have a good understanding of why these are safe and why these are pretty much the easiest ways to invest. It's not just beginners getting into this. There's many advanced traders that are getting into ETFs and even making ETFs. Again, if you find any value in this video, please don't hesitate to hit like and subscribe, share, hit the notification bell for future videos. And as always, thank you very much, and I will see you again soon. Have a good one.
Are you ready to take control of your financial destiny? 870 Trades and Homegrown Investments can help you. We are the #1 community to learn options trading. We will train you on how to successfully trade stock options on the most popular platforms available. We will lead you in entering and exiting specific stock option positions, helping you strategize which move serves you best. Join our community of over 1,000 like-minded traders to help support and teach you 21st century technology for a 21st century approach. 870 Trades and Homegrown Investments.